Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nutritional Revolution podcast. We have for you guys, I want to call you a superstar ultra runner. We have Harry Subertas with us, and I'm super excited to talk to you. If you're not familiar, just did Cocodona in May, 250 miles, right? And then shortly thereafter in June, just did Tahoe 200, and not just did them, you won both of those, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to hear about that experience. But yeah, thank you, Harry, for hopping on here with us today. And on top of all this, Harry has briefed me. He is very tired. He just pulled a double shift. So I'm very appreciative that you're hanging in here with me. We will make this one hopefully worth your while, but we'll time it all and get you so you can go to bed here shortly after. All right.
Okay. Take your
Awesome.
time.
Okay.
It's okay.
So I briefed you a little bit on the two truths and a lie. Do you feel comfortable laying those out?
Um, yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. Well, what do you got for us? I'll write them down.
Okay. Um, so I was born in a different country. I was born
Okay.
in Eastern Europe.
Okay.
Um, I am afraid of heights
Mm-hmm.
and I have summited Everest.
Okay. All right. These are all good ones. Ooh, but afraid of heights and summiting Everest is kind of like those two. One of those I feel like has to be the lie because those sound counterintuitive. I
Maybe.
wouldn't put it past you for summiting Everest. I'm gonna go with the lies that you're not afraid of, or the lie you said you are afraid of heights. So I think that's a lie. I think you're not afraid of heights, but don't tell me the answer yet. We will wait to reveal it at the end and potentially determine if you did summit Everest or not. That would be quite the feat. Um, so we'll dive into all of the racing experience now. But before we touch on that, take us back a little bit. What even got you like interested and excited about ultra running? Were you an athlete in school or?
I I was running back in school for sure, and
Yeah.
but it was just cross country and simple stuff. After college, I ended up um, getting into the longer distance and more challenges. So like I got into triathlons and
Hmm.
Ironmans and stuff, and I kind of wanted the bigger challenge. And then I got into mountains and mountaineering, and I ended up combining all of those. That's how I ended up in Alaska because of the mountaineering
Amazing.
aspect. Um, but yeah, and then just combining mountaineering, ice climbing with like long pushes. I just wanted to try it out, the 100-mile distance,
Wow.
and that was my first ultra.
Wow. Amazing. And so now I'm thinking maybe the summiting Everest thing that I feel like you're dropping little hints might be very true. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Sometimes our guests will accidentally reveal their truths or lies throughout the episode as we learn more about them. So we will see what happens here. So with the running in track and field or cross country, did you, was it something you enjoyed? Did you find that you were successful at it at that age or?
I was pretty decent, I want to say. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't the best, but
Hmm.
I, I was pretty good, and I really enjoyed it, and that's where what kept me out of trouble.
Nice. Yes, that's
You know,
important.
um, so and yeah, just running kind of became my passion. I started running when I was 11.
Wow.
Um, and I've been kind of running on and off
That's
between the
awesome.
other adventures. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. And so recently this year, you took on Cocodona and then the Tahoe 200, and I believe you have more ultras on the calendar this year as well, right?
two more. Yes, Bigfoot and Moab 240.
So can you tell our listeners a little bit about these races and is this oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but isn't there a sequence of ultras there's like a name for it?
So this one is part of the Triple Crown, except Cocodona.
Okay.
So Cocodona is Air Viper Race, so it's a different company, and
Mm,
then Tahoe, Bigfoot, and Moab is part of Destination Trails. So it's just
wow.
those Destination Trails called the Triple Crown. Um, and I don't know if you're familiar with Michael McKnight. He's the I think the best 200 mile runner, at least
Oh yeah.
for now.
Yeah.
He's a legend. So I had a conversation a couple years ago, and he kind of talked me into doing all four of those. He said that's a better challenge than just doing Triple Crown. So here I am, two
Wow.
years later, running, and we're running together. Yeah,
Amazing.
he's been doing all four as well.
Wow. And do you reside like primarily at altitude most of the year or in terms of your training?
Yeah, I last winter I moved to Reno,
Mm.
Nevada. So
Mm-hmm.
I am at 4,500 feet here
Okay.
in Reno, and
Yeah.
Tahoe's only 20 minutes away.
Amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
And so with the Cocodona situation, and what was it with all of this, the Triple Crown and Cocodona, what has training been like? How many hours are you trying to put in a week leading up to Cocodona, for example?
Because I'm full-time working, I work about 50 hours a week,
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week. I don't have that much time. So
Yeah.
normally I've been putting maybe 10 to 15 hours. Like
Mm-hmm.
biggest week I think been maybe 20 hours.
Wow.
So I don't have that much time, so I just do like 2 hours every day, and then weekends it's gonna be like 4 or 5 hours here
Yeah.
on Saturday or Sunday, and just kind of fit in whenever I can.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
yeah,
great.
and most of my training been just up and down the mountains. I just found the steepest hill and I just repeat it.
That's great. Yes,
That's
that
that's
good for
that's been my
you.
training. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the vert is that'll it hurts, but it definitely gets you in shape fast, I have to say. So
yeah.
that's great. You find a steep hill and just keep running it. So that's some good advice for the listener and myself. Yes, that's excellent. So with that training, I'm like makes me wonder too with talking about like having the full-time job and doing the training and maybe it's not as much volume as you might see some other runners doing in a given week, but seems like taking first in Cocodona and taking first in Tahoe, that might be in your favor.
I
You're
think
doing something right.
that was
Right?
enough. Yeah, with
Yeah.
what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm sure if I would do for speed or 100-mile race where it's much faster,
Mm.
I might need to change the training. I
Mm-hmm.
think for 200s it's a little bit easier volume.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe, uh, yeah, like I think for 200s it's like you don't need that speed. So as
Mm-hmm.
long as you put the hours, I think, and climbing, I
Yeah.
that's huge proponent.
Right.
But yeah, um, I'm still trying trial and error everything. This was first year that I've ran during the winter. Normally I
Wow.
don't run in the winter, so I just ski. So I concentrated on training a lot more
Were you running indoors or are you running outside?
outside. I hate outside. I hate gyms. I hate treadmills.
Yeah.
So it
That's
doesn't matter if it snows or rains or whatever. I just go outside.
That's great. That mental willpower and toughness that you have. So with the Cocodona, for our listeners who aren't familiar, can you tell us a little bit about that race, the distance, the terrain type, where is it located,
Yeah.
that kind
So
of stuff?
Cocodona is it starts just a couple miles north of Phoenix, Arizona,
Mm,
in Black Canyon, Arizona, actually. And then it goes from Black Canyons uh, all the way to Flagstaff, Arizona. So it's a
wow.
250 miles point to point. It's actually, I think, 249 miles to be exact. It wasn't 250.
Yeah.
And you travel through a lot of different terrains. You start pretty low and you're slowly climbing up. First 37 miles, as everybody says, is hardest. hardest just because it's the most climbing. There's
Hmm.
11,000 feet of gain.
Wow.
And then afterwards, you kind of doing a roller coaster all the way till like mile 240, where you have the biggest climb and the highest point of the course. You reach Mount Eldon at, I think, gained like 3,000 feet in 3 miles or something like
Wow.
that. And you top off at 9,000 feet up there. So there's a high altitude, high elevation involved. You are running the first part of the course through the desert, like first half
Hmm.
uh, through the desert. This year it was pretty cool as
Oh, good.
comparison with other years. So that's why
Hmm.
we were able to run a little bit faster, or at
Hmm.
least cooler than we expected.
Yeah.
Um, but still, dry desert, especially running all the way to Sedona. That's where you get to see the beautiful cactus and all of that.
That's
Redwoody
amazing.
plants, which I've never been. I've never been in Arizona, so
Oh,
that was a
really?
cool experience for me
Yeah,
to explore.
that is great. So when you were up at the highest points, like 9,000 feet, is there snow still up there?
There was a little bit, yeah.
And
Um,
cooler, I imagine.
yeah, it was a little bit cooler, probably like 10, 15 degrees cooler than
Mm,
back in town in Flagstaff.
yeah.
Um, but I got up there during the day, so I had sunshine and everything, so it wasn't cold. I'm pretty sure during the night it would have been really cold
Yeah.
up there and
Yeah.
windy.
Wow. And so 250 miles trail, lots of vert. How long does something like that take you?
So it took me just under 60 hours,
Wow.
um, 59 hours and 50 minutes.
So a
Um,
little more than 2 days. Are you sleeping at all during this event?
yes, I took 3 naps. Um, First night I took two 15-ish minute naps,
Really?
and
Wow.
then second night I took a 20-minute nap, um, actually in my truck, so that was really comfortable nap.
Nice.
Yeah,
Instead of on
the
the
first
dirt.
two naps were on the dirt, and
Yeah.
the second nap I ended up kicking a cactus. I got a cactus needle in my toe, so I sit down to take it out the needle.
Oh,
And then I'm like, I just got so tired. And I looked at my patient. I'm like, I'm just gonna take a nap here,
there
and
you
that was
go.
it. Yeah.
That's great. Wow. I mean, that is really incredible to only have taken two 15-minute naps, two 15-minute naps and a 20-minute nap throughout a
Hmm.
59 something hour race.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Not a lot of sleep.
Not a lot of sleep. So with something like that event, what time of day does the race start at?
It starts at 5 a.m.
It does. Okay.
So
What are
early
you,
morning. Yeah.
yeah. What are you doing from a nutrition lens that morning? Are you eating like a hefty breakfast or what are you
Yes.
doing?
I I normally make two breakfast burritos.
Nice.
Um, and I don't eat meat, so
Hmm.
it's just eggs, cheese, normally sweet potatoes,
Yum.
maybe some zucchini or pepper, and
Yeah.
just some other vegetables. And I just try to stuff it, both of them, and like normally an hour before the start.
Nice. All right.
Um, yeah,
I like
so
that breakfast
I start
burrito.
with a full stomach.
Yes, smart. And throughout the race, what is fueling like? Do you have a support crew? Are you stopping at any aid stations or are there aid stations?
Yes, so Cocodona is really nice because there are a lot of aid stations
Mm,
for such a big race.
yeah.
Um, so you get a lot of support. The first 30 seconds, you only have two water or
Mm,
one aid station and two water stations, I believe, or
mhm,
something like that. So like you're basically on your own. You're
mm.
required to carry at minimum 4 liters of water,
Oh,
because that's the hottest part of the course.
hmm.
You're in South Arizona.
Wow.
Um, but I had my own crew, my partner and couple friends joined and helped me out throughout the
Great.
course.
Wow.
So whatever the crew was able to access, they helped me out. And most of the time, I I ate majority of my nutrition in the aid stations or whenever I got crew. The
Mm,
same breakfast burritos, eggs, cheese, and wrap. That's it.
awesome.
Um, and every single aid station, I just either had a scrambled eggs or a burrito.
Wow.
Um, and then in between, whatever I could whatever I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, wafers, baby food. Baby food more most of the time. That's
Yeah.
what I eat. Um, yeah.
You're doing like the applesauce sweet potato kind of like combo ones and yeah.
Yeah, I made my own
Oh, smart.
kind of spring energy, the awesome sauce, but my own.
Yes.
Um, and just I it's expensive all of that food, so I normally just do my own natural
Yeah.
like food. That's why I just eat burritos
That's
um
amazing.
and all of that kind of more natural food as far as I can get.
Yeah. Do you do
Uh,
beans at all in your burritos or just the cheese and
no,
yeah.
no, just cheese and eggs. A lot of eggs. It's
Mm-hmm.
just I realize that just stomachs really well.
Awesome.
Um, yeah.
That's great. And talking about kind of the throughout the race too, were you targeting a certain goal from a nutrition intake per hour or just kind of what you felt like you wanted to eat at a certain time?
I tried to eat as much as I could whenever I could.
Yeah.
Um, I I I didn't have a target for
Hmm.
nutrition. I knew as long as I can stomach burrito each aid station, which was like every 3-ish hours.
Okay.
Um, and each of those burritos probably was 200 calories.
Hmm.
And if I just supplemented with some other snacks, maybe sweeter stuff,
Hmm.
um, that that kind of does it for me.
Wow.
And you can eat much heavier food in these longer races because we're not running that fast.
Right.
Where in comparison, 100 miles, I probably wouldn't stomach a burrito and
Yeah.
then run at fast speeds. So this is
Right.
very different, I guess, with the shorter races
Yeah.
comparison.
Wow. And what about, so you mentioned the 4 liters of fluid they have to carry. How are you carrying that? Is that 2 liters in the pack or even some bottles?
Yeah. Um, so you only required to carry that for first 37 miles, yeah, I
Okay.
believe. And then after that, you can do whatever you wanted.
Gotcha.
Um, just because after that, you had 8 stations every like
Hmm.
10 to 15 miles.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and so that first part, I had a 2-liter bladder and 4 half-a-liter bottle.
Wow.
And
It's
then
a lot of
after
weight too to
it
carry,
is,
right?
it
Yeah.
is, yeah, and it was more than I needed. I
Mm.
think I had extra liter at least left after
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
Um, and then afterwards, I normally just take 2 liters, and 2 liters is enough for 20 miles for me personally.
Great.
Um,
That's
for like
awesome.
4 hours,
Yeah.
4 or 5 hours, yeah.
Good for you. So throughout that, any electrolytes too you're using? Are you salting the food you're eating or are you getting some?
Yeah, so I've been requesting in the burritos to add salt, and also my crew was adding avocados in it for some
Nice.
fats. Um, but I don't want to say bad things about like certain products, but um, the products that the electrolytes that the race provided,
Yeah.
it wasn't good taste for me.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
So I ended up, and all we had was liquid IVs, sugar
Hmm.
free. So they were
Hmm.
zero calories,
Right.
unfortunately, but it was electrolytes.
Yeah.
So I didn't had any liquid calories. I just
Mm.
had only electrolytes, and that worked really well for me.
Yeah.
So I ran most of the race on those liquid IVs, where you
Nice.
just get a Costco bag
Yes.
and
Yes. That's
that
great.
was it. Yeah,
Wow. So are you mixing that in all your waters or are you doing some plain water
half
or
and
like,
half.
yeah.
Normally two bottles electrolytes and 2 bottles with water. One
Yeah.
bottle will have a um, filter
Oh yeah.
inside, so like I can actually scoop from the streams if
Hmm.
there is available.
That's great.
And there were quite a few streams that you could definitely drink, which was really nice because you could get a cold water,
Yeah, that is awesome. Were you
because
at all
water warms up.
wetting? Oh, sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I
No,
was,
just water heats up really quickly out there.
yeah. Were you using it to get yourself wet at all too? To like stay cool? Or did you feel like you needed that?
Um, Not really. Only 8 stations. I grabbed some ice and I
Yeah.
put it in the sleeves a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the most part, no. I just kept drinking.
Yeah. That's
Um,
great.
yeah.
Good for you. I love that you're consuming like a good amount of real food and you're tolerating it too. Cause like you're saying, the faster races, you see a lot of athletes lean towards a lot of these like sports gels and things like that. And from an energy lens, they digest easily and can get into our bloodstream quickly. But from a nutrition and a micronutrient lens, there's really nothing there, you know? So,
Yeah. So I think for like 1 day race, you can
mhm,
tough it out, but when you get into the 3 days,
yeah.
um, like in previous 200s, I had some veggie burgers as well,
Mm,
and
wow.
like quesadillas and stuff,
Yeah,
and of course soup and um, noodles.
that's
So
awesome.
all of those things just digest also pretty quickly. I've
Mm-hmm.
tried the gels and Mortons and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I trained with them good enough.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it did mess up with my stomach
Yeah.
after like 15 hours of
Man, yeah.
being on it.
Shoot.
So real food kind of gets better for me. Yeah.
That's great. And talking about real food and then the lack of sleep, are you doing anything, any caffeine to help get you through the nights or the days?
I cut off caffeine about 10 days before the race because
Mm-hmm.
I love coffee. Cough like I'm addicted to coffee.
Yeah.
Uh, but 10 days before the race starts, I cut off caffeine, and then first 24 to 36 hours, I don't take any caffeine.
Wow.
And then into second night, I would start drinking coffee. There's been, I think in Tahoe, I ended up taking coffee the first night,
Mm-hmm.
but that was a different circumstance.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then um, I get normally just like cold coffee, cold brew or something.
Yeah.
I'm really particular with coffee. I can't do instant coffee. I don't like it, the flavor of
Yeah.
it. So
I don't blame you. Do you, having had cut it out for 10 days, do you really like notice difference when you get it on course like, or get your cold brew? You feel like again?
at least the first couple
Yeah.
times, yes. I do Coke as well, also because
Mm-hmm.
certain aid stations there's no
Yep.
caffeine or no crew.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but first couple times, yeah, my eyes pops up and I'm like all jittery and ready to go.
Yeah.
But as the second night like goes out,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really work by the second morning
Right.
into the
Yeah.
third day.
Starts to wear
Um,
off.
yeah, it just kind of wears off, and after that, I just do whatever I can. Like I will chug Coca-Cola, which I don't like the flavor, but that's the most of the time. Like it's cold,
Yeah.
it goes down pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, like third day is kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. The final stretch. Tell us a little bit more about your homemade kind of like pureed food. How are you making this? Like what ingredients are you putting in there?
It's basically rice, sweet potatoes, honey, either honey or maple syrup, whatever I have.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the majority of the calories,
Mm-hmm.
is the maple syrup. And then, um, oh, so I cook the rice and sweet potatoes inside an apple juice and
Oh,
water. So
that's
I
great.
think, and then I put it in the rice cooker, everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it just becomes really mushy.
That's great.
And then take all of that, put it in a blender, add more applesauce, cinnamon, and honey or maple syrup, and that kind of comes out.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you just put that in like those portable like goof flask kind of things, or those like water flasks, or
No, I bought the reusable baby food pouches.
oh nice.
It just comes in like 5 or 7 ounces. So they're really big. So
Yeah,
one pouch ends up being like 200 plus calories for me.
that's great.
Like that's food doesn't, it's not calorie dense, but
Right.
it just goes down. It doesn't matter if it's hot, if it's cold, like
Yeah,
it's, it settles the stomach really well for me
that's
personally.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
All simple, mild flavored things. Yeah, it seems like that would be nice on the stomach. I love that. And that's not hard to do. Like a lot of people could make their own nutrition.
Yeah, it
So
takes 3 hours probably,
yeah.
and then you have a stack. Unfortunately, it goes bad pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
point.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
no preservatives, so it goes
Right.
bad pretty quickly. And during the race, you have to keep it in a refrigerator. So I have a portable refrigerator that's plugged in my truck,
Yeah.
so everything stays at least cold because once it's exposed to the sun, everything just gets sour.
Right. Oh man,
Yeah,
shoot. Do you add
yeah.
any like vitamin C or citrus or like lemon juice or anything?
I have tried, but it
Mm,
still didn't. It
still
still
went
goes
bad.
bad pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shoot.
especially when it's 90 degrees outside.
Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I love that. I think that's a fantastic way to get your nutrition in. Um, During the race, did you have any like struggles with anything, whether it was like if you thought you were going to finish or injuries or cramping or run out of nutrition at any point? Like anything hit you at some point where you kind of questioned the the rest of the race?
Yeah. So around mile 50
Mm.
ish, I got really bad cramps. I've never experienced anything like that before, but my calves and my quads were just pulsating, just waving.
Oh,
So as I'm
wow.
standing, so I ended up walking quite a bit, a big
Hmm.
portion, and at that point I was still in second place, and then Jeff Browning ended up catching up to me at the aid station where I just ended up spending extra time. I got
Mm.
some eggs, but personally I mixed it up. My salt tablets.
Hmm.
I thought I didn't had it. Apparently, I put it in the wrong pocket. I couldn't
Oh,
find
shoot.
it, so it was my mistake.
Yeah.
But then everything worked out afterwards.
Hmm.
It got dark, it cooled down,
Yeah.
and I rehydrated and I got back to normal.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
that like 10-15 mile stretch was a little bit tougher.
Yeah, goodness. And from a mental lens, like how did you get such good mental willpower and the ability to keep putting one foot in front of the other? Is that something you've like grown with and evolved with over time, or do you have any like inspiration or books that you read or anything like that?
Books. So I've worked for 7 years as a mountain guide.
Oh, nice.
So most of my summer's been spent in the mountains on the glaciers.
Mm,
And I didn't had much. Like all we had was just whatever we can carry on our backs.
right.
And all of the expeditions was like 20 days at a time. So that
Wow.
just simplicity made it made it easier for me, and I
Yeah.
really enjoyed climbing mountains and going out and exploring with minimal amount of things. So for me, whenever I'm cramping or in trouble, as long as it's not life and death situation, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I can push through most of those things.
Yeah. That's a great. You have you have the experience, which makes this seem easy, probably, right? Or a little bit more manageable, shorter duration.
Well, at least at least I know there are other people
Hmm.
who will help me.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry of like I can push my limit
Yeah.
during these races. and I don't have to worry that I have to rescue myself or
Right.
I have to rely on some sort of partner. So
Yeah.
here you can push your limits during these races, and that's the cool part, I think. Just participating in the races, because most of the time, like you could just go out on your own on these races and just do your own thing, but that's very different because
Mm-hmm.
logistically it's very difficult.
Right.
But this race provides you with everything that I need
Mm-hmm.
and more. Uh, and then in that point, you can just push your body physically and mentally as far as you
Wow.
can.
That's amazing. And so with something like that, 250 miles, 59 hours and some change, what happens when you cross the finish line? Are you getting in real food, recovery, nutrition? Are you going straight to bed? What is those first couple hours after the finish line look like?
Food for sure. Food is like the first thing in my mind.
Yeah.
I was starving. I always starve after the race. So
Yeah.
I we had a big meal. And then I think we ended up getting pizza,
Nice.
something simple, you know.
Yeah.
And then I, of course, shower and fall asleep.
Are you
Um,
able to fall asleep pretty easily, or do you feel like you're still like your system's still like turned on?
the hardest part is just the temperature regulation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so like I fall asleep in the bed with the sheets on, I get really, really hot and I feel like I'm
Yeah.
boiling. I take it off and start shivering.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so I normally first couple of days
Hmm.
after such race, I wouldn't sleep throughout the night.
Wow.
I would
Yeah.
like wake up and then I'm like either shivering or I'm really hot
Hmm.
and I can't regulate the temperatures normally.
Yeah.
And it takes
Wow.
a couple of days.
Yeah. What does movement look like in the days following? Are you just trying to walk, or is your body really sore?
Um, after Cocodona, I think I was I like similar like everybody else, you know, the penguin walk, you kind of not really bending your knees for the
Yeah.
first time, for first probably couple hours
Hmm.
after you wake up, but then I try to move around as much as I can. I try to go for a hike.
Mm.
I like I don't run, but I just try to
Yeah.
move as much as I can. Movement is kind of the best way to recover.
Yeah. Yeah. Get the blood flowing. So with Cocodona being on May 6th and Tahoe 200 June 14th, little less than a month apart.
Mhm.
What does your training look like in that window? And how soon are you getting back to running after Cocodona?
Um, so I spend the rest of the week in Arizona, and I finished on Wednesday. I think Monday I started running again.
Wow.
Um, yeah, but it was just really easy, simple. That first week
Mm-hmm.
was just recovery. You don't really have a training
Mm-hmm.
for 5 weeks. There's nothing you can improve
Right.
in that short of time. So you're just maintaining. So easy runs. Um, yeah, I think I did maybe two longer runs, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I did anything more than 20 miles.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, just easy kind of movement. Um, and then yeah, like leading up to Tahoe, I ended up getting a little bit sick and I getting
Mm.
cough. So
Oh yeah.
I was coughing 2 weeks prior to the start line. I think I stopped coughing 2 days before the start.
Wow. Oh
Uh,
man.
but it was just dry cough. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened, but we had a lot of travel. We went to East Coast afterwards, so like we just were flying back and forth.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
think my body wasn't recovered enough just to travel that much.
Yeah. Goodness. And did you find in the kind of like once the body temperature started regulating itself, then do you sleep more than you would normally after that like big effort, or are you back to kind of your normal sleep schedule?
I have no choice. I had to go to work.
Right. That's right.
So it was the same, like 6 8 hours a night.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then weekends maybe sleep until
Yeah.
like 7 a.m. or something, eight
Nice.
a.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you utilize any like supplements to help with your like recovery post Cocodona?
just protein powder. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Just because I don't eat meat, I'm
Hmm.
lacking on protein, so that's the big issue I think
Yeah.
for me.
Do you do like a whey-based protein or do you do egg or plant?
Um, I think it's I don't really know what I have, honestly.
It's just
Whatever
not meat.
pasture sells, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not I'm not very picky. Like I
Yeah.
do eat a lot of eggs.
Hmm.
I can't get away without eggs.
Hmm.
I do eat decent amount of cheese. Um, but the protein, I think it's whey protein that I've been using.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just making smoothies with protein.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
Help with the muscle tissue recovery. And after your training runs, what is your go-to like first meal you eat after?
Oh, whatever there is in the fridge. I'm not a picky.
Yeah. Do you guys do a lot of food prep or do you like yourselves? Like do you make a lot
No,
of your
I
own meals?
I do enjoy cooking. It just
Yeah.
unfortunately ends up being like later nights.
Yeah.
But we don't do meal preps. We just the problem is with me, I eat insane amounts of food.
Yeah.
And whatever we think we make a full big pot, like 5 quart pot, I will eat that whole thing,
Wow.
and there's no leftover. So
Yeah.
there was we couldn't figure out how much food to make for me to
Right.
not consume. So I eat a
Yes.
lot,
Yeah.
but most of it is carbohydrates,
Hmm.
and yeah, just adding some supplemental protein.
That's great.
Um, and that's the biggest struggle I've been having.
Is fueling like
The protein
protein.
intake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it can be tricky, but it sounds like you have your eggs, you're getting some protein from your cheese. Do you do beans at all?
I do, and not all the time, but I
Hmm.
do. I do beans. I we've been doing soy,
Oh yeah.
and I'm I'm kind of iffy with soy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I still need to read up on the science behind it,
Yeah.
like how much can we absorb. Same
Mm.
thing with the beans. I don't know how much protein we can absorb through the beans
Hmm.
just because of the fiber and stuff.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's
There's
kind of like it's
all
probably a
kinds of
better question for you in that sense.
I
Uh,
mean, you're on to something. That's certainly true. There's the fiber does impact even absorption of certain vitamins and minerals, right? I mean, it
mhm,
binds those things up. So yeah, it just makes things a little bit less bioavailable overall. From yeah, everything in there. But certainly if we look at it from a overall lens, like in comparison to other foods, legumes and lentils will give you more protein, supposedly like per yeah, per serving or per 100 grams of weight than a lot of other plant-based sources. But yeah, how much of it are you absorbing across the board is hard to say. And are you getting all your essential amino acids you need to pair it usually with something else? So there's that. But
mhm,
yeah, yeah, it is a carb source, but yeah, there's the fiber and all the other things in there as well. So yeah, it's a good thought and question around that. So let's see. I had some cramping in Cocodona. Did that repeat itself once you got to Tahoe, or did you feel like you had that all handled?
I
The
got
most
all handled.
nice.
Tahoe, I switched to the electrolytes that the race was
Oh
providing,
yeah.
and I liked them a lot. Um, and I'm not sponsored by anything, so I don't really want to say names or anything.
Yeah,
I don't
totally
know.
fine.
Um, but those worked, and I had a bunch of like there was 200 grams of carbs in the
Wow.
liquid itself, so it was quite dense. Or
Mm-hmm.
200 calories. Sorry, not 200
Gotcha.
grams
Oh
of
yeah.
carbs. Sorry, it's 200 calories inside half a liter bottle. So
Okay.
there was a lot of calories just through the liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And Tahoe, the aid stations are further apart. They're like
Mhm.
closer to 19-ish miles.
Okay.
Um, so you have to be on your own for a longer time.
Yeah.
So I think those liquid calories helped me a lot more. And it felt warmer in Tahoe,
Mm.
but maybe because we're in high elevation,
Mm-hmm.
um, at least for me personally.
Yeah.
But the temperatures weren't that high, but it
Oh,
felt
yeah.
warmer for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, the dryness and to
Mm-hmm.
being up at altitude. Wow. So with Tahoe and Cocodona winning both of those, I mean, how did you feel with your win after Cocodona? And then what were you thinking expectation wise for Tahoe based off of your body and how you were feeling? Were you thinking this is going
Oh,
to
I
be
was
rough or
ambitious.
you were
I was
in
ambitious.
bed?
I was, I wanted to break the record for Tahoe.
Amazing. Wow.
I was feeling for it. My legs were good.
Amazing.
The problem with Tahoe, I realized it's an hour. The start line is an hour from my house.
Oh,
So I decided we're gonna just sleep at home.
nice.
Normally I sleep in the truck at the start
Right.
line. And I realized I couldn't fall asleep. I did not sleep entire night.
Oh
Uh,
no.
yeah, I think maybe I fell asleep for 2 hours throughout the night,
Oh shoot.
and I
Yeah.
just been tossing and turning. So I got to the start line sleep deprived already.
Mm,
But adrenaline was pumping. I still was feeling really good. Um, the first half, I believe I was about an hour and a half uh, faster than I was estimating. So I was
mm.
running way faster than
Wow.
I was I needed to.
Yeah.
And I knew I'm gonna crash later. I just
Mm,
didn't realize how hard I will crash.
mm.
And it wasn't muscular crash.
Yeah.
I had breathing issues, and Tahoe is
Oh.
really well known about uh, what's at least in Tahoe 200, it's called
Mm,
Tahoe lung, um,
mm.
where you just ended up coughing. You get liquids in your lungs, and you just ended up coughing out mucus just constantly. You
Wow.
start wheezing later in the race,
Ouch. Yeah.
and it gets harder and harder the further it goes. And
Whoa.
majority of the runners experience that.
Whoa.
And so that was pretty bad. Last 50
Yeah.
miles was really really tough for me.
Oh man. So
Yeah.
you kept going and you were experiencing that and like coughing and
Yeah. So once I got to 150 miles, my crew was like, okay, you're still an hour behind the record or like your
mm,
estimated time. And I just looked at them. I'm like, let's just concentrate on winning, and that's it.
mm-hmm.
Because I had a decent lead at that point, but I knew there were really strong runners who can still catch up if I'm
Mm.
just barely moving.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, and there was really tough points where I couldn't breathe, so I was just taking 10, 15 steps in a
Wow.
tripod position, catching my breath, 10, 15
Wow.
steps, and constantly like that climbing for, I don't remember, 7 miles. There was a climb for, yeah, for 7 miles from Incline Village all the way up to the Snow Valley Peak to 9,000 feet.
Wow. And does that the thing in the lungs, does that happen because of the exposure to altitude, like the ups and downs or the
I would love to research that.
yeah.
I was a couple weekends ago at Western States, and I was
Mm,
talking with some folks, and it would be a wonderful research study to just figure out like what is happening. Is
yeah.
it uh, some sort of dry sand? Because the trails are really dusty out there.
Mm.
Pollen was extreme out there,
Oh,
but I'm not
yeah.
allergic to pollen, I know, but
Yeah.
still can cause
Mm-hmm.
you something. And yeah, altitude. Yeah, you can still get a exercise-induced pulmonary edema,
Mm-hmm.
which that's what it, at least that's what doctors said.
Mm-hmm.
I had.
Mm.
Um, so I haven't told many people,
Mm-hmm.
but I ended up going to ICU after
Wow.
finishing this race,
Yeah.
and they did just some tests because my oxygen saturation was 78
Oh my gosh.
after I
Wow.
finished it. So I wasn't feeling that great
Yeah.
uh, by the end, but they did a bunch of tests and they x-rayed my lungs and did some CT scans, and so I'm just curious to show that to somebody else,
Yeah.
to more experts,
Wow.
and
So what,
see what we can find.
yeah. So was there water in your lungs still when they did the x-ray?
Yeah, yeah. The medical director of Destination Trails, he listened to my lungs, and there was barely any movement, air movement in the bottom lobes of my lungs,
Whoa. Huh.
and there was crackling in the upper part, and
Wow.
yeah, throughout the night, I think I coughed it out like 6 ounces of mucus. Like they
Wow.
gave you one of those like puke bags,
Yes.
and it just had gradients. That it
Wow.
was a lot of mucus that I
Oh
coughed it out.
man.
Yeah,
Wow. Goodness.
yeah.
And how are your lungs feeling now? Like, do you feel like it's resolved?
I think I'm back to normal. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been training. I've been back to altitude. I ran today to 8,000 feet, so
Nice.
I think it's good, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
I
feel
don't know
like,
what's the long term effects of this as well.
right. Yeah. I mean, from what I'm just like jumping back in my memory of, well, talking about like the mountaineering stuff, I wonder, did you ever experience it doing any of that, like with the high altitude?
No, I've
No.
been up to 23,000 feet, and
Wow.
I've not like I've experienced mild AMS. Of course, everybody does,
Yeah.
especially first time going to the high altitude.
Mm,
The first time was, yeah, bad headache. I think my oxygen saturation dropped below
yeah.
70%. But then I sat at the base camp for I think 4 days, and
Right.
it resolved. It got back up to like higher 80s to low
Mm-hmm.
90s, and I was fine.
Hmm.
But over there, like I'm just sitting, I'm
Yeah.
sleeping, I'm resting. Here
Right.
you're pushing, and it's
You're
not a
running.
high elevation out here.
Yeah.
We top off at 9,000 feet, so it's moderate. It's not high.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. That is interesting. They should do a study on that.
Yeah,
They've been doing more studies on the ultra running community, specifically Western states. I think they are doing more research. But yeah, I'll keep putting that out there in the atmosphere because that would be an interesting to take a look at. If especially if we're seeing multiple athletes at a high level experience similar things, that's certainly something to look into more.
yeah. I would love to solve this problem
Yeah, yeah,
and just
certainly.
come back and do it again. That would be
Yeah,
my thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
gosh. Okay, well, I want to be mindful of your time. We're like zipping through this hour here. Let's see, what's coming up for you? We kind of hinted at it a little bit, I think, when we hit record, but what's coming up for you the rest of the year from a race perspective?
I have two more races: Bigfoot 200 and Moab 240.
And when are those?
So Bigfoot is in August 9th, I believe,
Okay.
and Moab is October, second week of October. I don't remember
Okay.
exact date.
So this
So
is kind of your longer break right now between Tahoe
yes,
and nice.
yes, and I feel like I can train.
Hmm.
So I have 4 weeks. So I think I'm gonna put a block of training.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that is very exciting. We will be definitely cheering for you for from afar. And fingers crossed. Did those have the big altitude swings like Tahoe does and Bigfoot or Moab?
Elevation change, yes,
Oh, wow.
but it's not an altitude in a Bigfoot.
Oh,
It's
okay.
up in Mount St. Elias.
Oh, okay.
So it's low elevation,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of up and downs, a lot of
Yeah.
climbing. Moab, yes, you top out above 10,000 feet.
Wow.
So there is
Goodness.
a higher elevation in Moab.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, fingers crossed everything goes smooth. Sounds like you're feeling strong now. And then I'll circle back to our two truths and lie so we can figure those out. So you said you were born in Eastern Europe. that you're afraid of heights and that you summited Everest. And I'm thinking you're not afraid of heights. I thought that was a lie. Was I right?
No,
No.
I
Oh,
I am scared of heights
you
personally.
are. Oh
Yeah.
man. Which one was the
Uh,
lie?
I haven't done it Everest. So I got into mountaineering so I could do Everest. Uh,
Wow.
and it's still in
Still
my
on the
dream.
bucket list?
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
I'm sure you will do it. I'm sure you'll get it done. It sounds
Mm.
like, I mean, from what I've learned about you thus far, I think you got it in you to do it.
We'll
Um,
see. The dreams are changing kind of
yeah.
slowly.
Slowly. I know as
Yeah.
we get older, things change a little bit, don't they? Goodness. Well, where can people find you and follow along on your journey?
Oh my goodness. I have Instagram. I try to be up to date, but I'm not
Yeah.
really good with social media.
Hmm.
But Instagram is probably the best place
Okay.
to
Awesome. Well,
find me.
we'll link your Instagram in the show notes for our listeners. But yeah, this has been an amazing episode. I love you're probably one of the most like real food self-prepared guests
Well,
we've had on our podcast.
I like it's a disclaimer. I still carry paydays with me and eat those,
Yeah.
as a junk food. I still have some gummy
Yes.
bears with me.
Hmm.
But mostly I try to eat on the real food. Yes.
That's great. I love that. Yeah. I mean, you got to mix and match, but I mean, I think you're putting in a good effort more so than I think a lot of athletes are doing. So yeah, kudos to you for that. And then yeah, good luck with the racing the rest of the season. Like I said, we'll be cheering for you from afar and yeah, I'm sure you're going to crush it. I mean, you've just been hammering these last couple of races. So I think
Um,
you're going to do great.
I hope so. I'm still ambitious.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
that's good. Keep it. Keep that
Yeah.
going. It's
Yeah, I
working
have
well for you.
motivation.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you again so much for joining us. This has been really wonderful, and I know our listeners are going to love this.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.